Hey, welcome back. I'm in my truck today because there's a tournament going on at my park. Yes, I work at a park. And my office is what the concession area would be, but it's too loud in there. There's people all over the place. So I just came in my truck to make this video, which probably looks weird to the people outside. I'm sitting here talking to my phone. That's okay. What they think about me, that is none of my business. So today we're in John 2. We're going to read a little bit and talk about it a little bit and go from there. So let's get into it. John 2. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there, and both Jesus and his disciples were invited to the wedding. When the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does this have to do with us? My hour has not yet come." I like this. I've heard a lot of debate about this one story. I think unnecessarily. A lot of people will use it. Either Catholics will use it to say, see, Mary is a mediator. She is a go-between between the people who want something and Jesus. They went to Mary, Mary went to Jesus, and then Jesus did what she asked. So it's okay to pray to Mary. I've heard other people use this as, see, Jesus doesn't really take what Mary says very seriously. He responds to her and says, "Woman, what does this have to do with us?" So he's not listening to her very much. And back and forth the argument goes. In my mind, I think this is just a normal conversation that can tend to happen between a mother and a son. I feel like Mary has a problem and believes that her son can help. And maybe she doesn't even know how, but she goes to him knowing that Jesus in some way can make the situation better. I almost feel like there's like a desperation. Like, Jesus, there's no wine. I almost picture my mom, Brandon, can you go to the store and pick up something? But I love this story because it's just a real interaction between a mother and a son. And Jesus, when he says woman, this is not a mean term. It's a normal term. It's not an endearing, but it's also not a non-endearing term. It's like it'd be like, yes, mom, or, something that we would say along those lines. Not like he's annoyed or anything like that. It's just he's answering the question. Woman, what does that have to do with us? And so I think people put way too much stock into this story. There's so much other things to learn from this story that I don't want this to get in the way of what comes next. And so my personal thoughts, like, yes, I believe that, no, we can't go to Mary as a mediator between her and Jesus. The Bible makes it real clear about not praying to those who are in heaven or who have moved on. And so I don't think it's wise or proper to pray to Mary in order for her to get Jesus's attention, which is what they believe in Roman Catholicism. But I also believe that this is just a normal interaction. And Jesus is pointing out the fact that it's not time for him to make a big deal quite yet, but he wants to help. And so here we continue on in verse 5. His mother said to the servant, "Whatever he says to you, do it." Now there were 6 stone water pots set there for the Jewish custom of purification, containing 20 or 30 gallons each. These are huge water jugs. They would weigh a lot when they're full of water. Jesus said to them, "Fill the water pots with water." So they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Draw some out now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it to him. I love this. These servants are just doing what Jesus asks. Then the head waiter tasted the water, which had become wine, and he did not know where it came from. But the servants who had drawn the water knew. The head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Every man serves the good wine first, and when the people have drunk freely, then he serves the poor wine. But you have kept the good wine until now." This is another couple of verses I've often heard people debate about, whether it's okay to drink or not drink, for Christians to drink or not drink. Did Jesus drink wine, or did he not drink wine because of fermentation and stuff like that? But again, all I can go with is my own personal opinion. My personal opinion, yes, I think Jesus drank wine. I think the Bible makes that very clear. I think other people drink wine in the Bible. That is obviously very clear, as we see from this story. I don't think this was just some flavored water, as I've heard some preachers say. They say that wine was just used to make the water not taste so bad, but it wasn't a lot. This story completely debunks that, because it says it's good wine. Anybody who knows anything about wine knows that good wine is not watered down. And so I do think the Bible makes it clear that wine is okay. But I also know that the Bible makes it very clear that certain positions, especially in ministry, should not drink. Wine is not meant for anybody who wants to be considered a leader or a ruler or a king or anything in high places, in statues, so to speak. I also don't think that, personally, I don't think that our culture does a very good job of moderation. And so I would never encourage people to drink. If anything, I think I would encourage people not to drink. And so personally, I've struggled with alcohol before. And I know that that fight is real. And it's very hard, especially in our culture, to get away from alcohol. And so if anything, I would encourage people, hey, put the bottle away. You can enjoy company. You can do things without drinking. But I would never demand somebody not to do something. That's not my heart. But from personal experience, I know how much alcohol can cost. Like, it almost cost me everything at one point. I struggled with it for years. And then one day, God spoke to me. I feel personally spoke to me and just told me that he was in control. That just filled me with his love once again, and I broke down in tears, and I confessed to my wife just how bad my drinking had gotten. And because of that, because of my confession, and I cried out to God, and there's a passage that says, by his stripes we are healed. I just believe that God could transform me in an instant. And that's what he did. I put down the alcohol one night after struggling with it for years. My life had gotten out of control. I gained over 100 pounds. I was depressed. I was struggling at work. I was struggling in my marriage. I was doing as little as possible. All my hobbies, my habits, the things I loved to do, I no longer love to do them. My work ethic, when something gets that much control over your life, it's very dangerous, and it can be very hard to get out. And we live in a culture where it's just assumed everybody drinks these days. And so I would say, personally, Jesus healed me from alcoholism overnight, instantly. And I know that's not a lot of people's stories, but I do think that power is there. Now I'm rambling and I'm preaching a little bit. That's fine. This is near and dear to my heart. Now it's been about a little over 3 years since I've had a drink of alcohol. And when Jesus went to heaven, he says, no longer will I drink from the fruit of the vine until we're at the table. So in my mind, until we're all around the dinner table in heaven. And so in my mind, if Jesus can wait until then, I think I can too. But if you are struggling with alcohol, if maybe you don't want to admit that you are struggling with alcohol, I just encourage you. Jesus has the power for you to conquer that. Just confess your sins, accept that Jesus took that sin on the cross, and you're already healed from it if you just believe. And that's my encouragement. And I'll finish with a couple more verses, but people will use this story for different reasons. Personally, the Bible makes it clear drinking alcohol is not a sin, but please, if you do drink, no alcoholic started out as an alcoholic. Just know that. It all started as a sip of alcohol. And I've seen where it can lead when it can get out of control. And so I just beg, please, just don't use this story to influence alcoholism, because that can happen very easily. All right. Verse 11. This beginning of his signs Jesus did in Cana of Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believing in him. After this, he went down to Capernaum, and he and his mother and his brothers and his disciples, and they stayed there for a few days. So we'll stop there. This is where we left off in verse 12. I'll pick up tomorrow in verse 13. One other thing I want to talk about quickly is I love the heart of these servants. Before in verse 7, when it was just talking about Jesus asking them to do something, they did it. Asked them to do something else, they did it. If you want to be used by Jesus, just be obedient to the little things. Because man, if you can do that, you get to see the miracles happen. These servants got to see the miracle because they were just obeying the little things that Jesus was asking. I find that so encouraging. Like, you don't need to do a lot. It's the little things. It's the small obedience that can lead to seeing God's power in miraculous ways. I appreciate your time. Thank you for letting me vent and share a little bit of my story. I have a lot more that I'll probably share over time. As different stories brings up different memories, I'll just share them. But man, I just appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and share this video, subscribe, leave a like, all that fun stuff. But yeah, until next time.